Thank you so much, Neil. Hello. It's so good to see everyone. What an amazing opportunity to come together to celebrate Healthwatch, to celebrate their amazing chief executive, but also to look at some of the really tricky issues that we are dealing with together. Now, actually, I was particularly delighted and honoured to be invited today because it was back in 2012 that I had a particular challenge. So we're going to talk about challenges and opportunities, but I had a particular challenge. And the challenge was that I had been made the chair of Healthwatch, and Healthwatch was just being formed. So we had the links. Many of you in the room were part of that. Yet again, we had central change of the system, and it felt as if this was a challenge that maybe was going to be a bit beyond me. But the fantastic opportunity that lay ahead was to actually change Healthwatch so that it could do more. And look at the incredible research that we've heard about today. That was an opportunity that came from the challenge of change. But the thing that I was most proud about was that I made the best decision I ever made in an appointment, and that was to appoint Jeff. So, before we begin, yeah, that was really, really great. It's just one other thing. I know in a keynote speech, you're supposed to make reference to current news. Well, I was listening to the radio when I came in this morning. I thought, you know, what bit of fantastic news am I going to pick out today? And it was talking about MPs having to wear ties in Parliament. And I thought, well, you know, who on earth am I going to weave that in? But of course, that was perfect. Because I don't know about you, all the online meetings we've had, every meeting I have ever been in with Jeff, he is the most dapper man in the room. He wears his suit, he wears his tie, even though he's sitting in his kitchen. Absolutely an example of a professional. Great. So, sorry, you just go back one. Thank you so much. So, the title I was given today was Opportunities and Challenges for the VCF sector working with the NHS and social care. And I thought, right, well, if we have a month and none of us go to the loo or leave the room, we won't get that title done. So I'm really taking this at a high level and trying to get us to sort of think reflectively. And then when I really thought about that, I thought, well, actually, what we all need to do together, the real crux of the matter is, how can we all work together across the whole system to tackle those wicked problems? Because with those wicked problems, we can really only tackle them together. Thank you, Neil. So I'm going to start with challenges, because it's always good to start with the hard stuff and then move on to the opportunities. But before I move on, what I'd like you all to do is to think about something in your work lives, or something in your sort of previous work lives, or in your volunteering life, maybe in your personal life, that is absolutely impossible to overcome. It's incredibly complex. You know, it's got lots of issues involved, and you know, despite best efforts, you keep coming across that problem. We'll be talking about some of them this morning. So can you all just for a moment try and think of one of those problems? Has everyone got one? Great. Well, I wonder whether the reason that those problems are not being solved is because they are wicked problems. So some of you may have come across this work before, an American researcher who looked at why there are certain issues that we just don't seem to be able to resolve together. You know, we put so much time and effort and intelligence and resource into solving them, but we just can't get on top of them. And the reason I've shown this quite complex slide is because I think it's really interesting that these are issues where maybe we can't get consensus, so lots of different views in the room. Issues that actually carry on over time. You know, how many of us thought about an issue that, you know, it was the same issue 10 years ago and we're still trying to sort it? It just doesn't seem to respond to quick fixes. Even though we do something, it then appears again and we thought we got it sorted. Lots of different things involved, lots of complexity and lots of interconnectedness. And then on the other side, you know, we've got to carry on learning about it. We've got to carry on adapting. You know, one solution isn't enough. Lots of intricacy, lots of uncertainty, lots of concepts and value concepts and diverse perspectives, doesn't have a clear universal solution, multiple and conflicting interpretations are present. Oh gosh, right. Just tell me here, would someone say, or all of you say, anyone say, that the thing that they thought of meets some or all of those characteristics?
Yep.
Yeah. Who would like to share their particular problem with the rest of the group quickly? Anyone want to talk about the wicked issue that came into their mind?
I don't mind.
Okay.
I'm Helen Glenister and I'm the Chief Executive of Isabel Hospice. So I think the wicked problem for society, but for me as well, is, you know, getting everybody to think and talk about death and dying and advanced care planning, because it's so important for people and the quality of, you know, life that's left and for those that are around us. And I think it's very much a wicked problem.
Thank you. And that is an amazing example because it totally ticks that box, because none of us want to talk about death. It's still the elephant in many people's rooms. I've been trying to get my own mum, who is 89, to write her advanced care plan, and she says, oh, I don't want to think about that yet. You know, it is really challenging. It's hard for families. It's hard for us as individuals. I don't want to think about dying. I almost watched my brother die last Friday. I was called down. He was having a cardiac something. Anyway, he's got a pacemaker and he's the healthiest he's been in years. We don't want to think about it, and the system doesn't want to think about it. You know, the NHS is set up to try and mend people. So at what point do you stop trying to mend and do you start trying to help people to die well or live well in the last stages of life? Social care. You know, do you invest in having places where people can go and live in residential care for 6 months, or do you put your money into trying to help them to live well in the last stages of life within their own homes? Thank you. Now, the next image I've got is because this is the very best image that I could find to really demonstrate the second of my challenges. So the first big challenge is that most of our problems are wicked. The second big challenge is that, in my view, this is what the health and care system looks like. And I couldn't find a better diagram. I've seen lots of other diagrams, but every diagram I see of the health and care system, actually, it goes into my brain and it feels like this. Because it's just complex. And for people within bits of the system, we quite often understand them. But for the rest of us looking in, you know, if we're looking from one bit of a system to the other bit of the system, it is so complicated. And this is a real challenge for the sector that I'm very privileged to work within, the VCFSE, Voluntary Community Faith and Social Enterprise sector, because we are trying to support both the system and the people who are using the system. And I think it's important to recognise that when we're talking about people using the system, we're talking about us. You know, we talk all the time about patients. You know, let's stop talking about patients. Let's start talking about service users. We're talking about people. And a lot of people who we're trying to help look at the NHS, look at social care, and they see that. So the first reflection I have around that challenge is, let us, when we communicate with each other, when we invite the VCFSE sector in to help us with our problems, let's let them tackle the bits that we really need them to support with. But let's not try and say, until you can help, you've got to understand all of this. You know, charities and third sector organisations don't want to do all of this. They have specific roles that they can do that actually they can do better than other system partners. So let's recognise it is very complex, but let's try and invite the sector in to help with specific problems and challenges rather than trying to untangle all of the mess. I did also think there, actually, in terms of Healthwatch, that there are many occasions in which Healthwatch, for me, in terms of this image, have been like knitting needles, because they really have sort of got the different bits of string and different bits of wool, and they've sort of made something sensible of it. you know, they brought it all together and they put it in semblance of a nicely made piece of cloth, which can really help the rest of the system understand. Thank you. So, some interesting little characters here, and strangely enough, they do exemplify my next challenge. I'd like to have a look at those and just see which of those characters there represents what you feel about your role or life at the moment. Which one is sort of closest to what you feel? Well, I don't know about you, but certainly I can't think of one. I mean, on Friday night, I was, you know, the clinical person here sitting by my brother's bedside, making sure that all the clinicians did the right thing for him. I'm sometimes a pirate when I go to the county council and I say, I'm going to try and steal some of your money because I desperately need it to try and help people. Sometimes, in fact, yesterday I was doing a disciplinary, you know, I'm a bit of a policeman, I'm trying to get people to behave right. And actually, probably most, I'm trying to be a magician. I'm trying to do magic tricks with, you know, too few resources and too many challenges and everything else. But the reason I particularly show this in relation to the VCFSE sector is because in large organisations, you will actually probably have a team member who does a lot of the things that are represented there. In a small charity, you don't. I still remember back in the day when I was dealing with a particular issue, when I first come to work with HILS, someone came to me and said, we were dealing with a legal document, and said, will you pass this by your legal team? And I thought, well, that's me. And then someone else said something about, well, you know, will you get your comms team to do it? I thought, well, swap hats, you know? And so for the rest of the system, when we are dealing with the VCFSE, I think it's important to remember that we just don't have access to the same resources. And so when there are 100 different locality meetings, well, yeah, we may be able to occasionally turn up to one, but if it's a small charity that's been led by a volunteer, you won't be able to turn up at all because you're doing the job. You're a doer, you're a thinker, you're a magician, you're an everything else. So I think an understanding of each other's perspectives is really important to effective working together and solving those wicked problems. Thank you. Right, so a communication network. That is another challenge for us all. And again, it is another area where Healthwatch has played an incredibly important role because they have been able to improve communication across our system. But for the VCFSE, I think the real challenge is that our communication doesn't look like that, because each of these would have to be written in a language that is often unknown to us. It's written in professional speak. I mean, I also have a non-executive role with Hertfordshire Community Trust that I totally love doing. But even now, I'm 4 years in, and so often I come across an acronym, I think, I can't remember that one, you can't remember that one. You know, it's hard. We need to be able to communicate in a way that we all understand. But the other thing is, we need to be able to communicate about real lives and real problems. Because I think sometimes we remove ourselves from the issue by making it very technical and professional, and we forget that we are all trying to help individuals. It's individual lives that we need to support. Thank you. So I wanted to bring some real people into the room. And John actually lives quite locally, but I couldn't bring him into the room because I don't know whether you want to guess how old John is, anyone? 100? He's actually 104. Wow. And John had quite a lot of personal challenges. He actually came to our Meals and Wills service right back in 2014. And he joined us with his wife because they were facing physical challenges and they couldn't prepare food anymore. Their daughters were worried about them. They knew that he needed support and his wife needed support. And we looked after them both. We helped them overcome that challenge so they could stay independent. But very sadly, John's wife died. And then we were able to step up even more to support him, because not only were we taking him in meals on all weekdays, his daughters help him at weekends, but we were then his connection to the community. Our team members know him so well. They know what he enjoys. They have a laugh every day. They were able to help him overcome the new challenge of being bereaved and actually living a lot longer than his wife. The other thing amazing about John that I wanted to mention is that he actually was on the radio the other day. He was at D-Day, and on local radio he went on and he spoke about the trauma and the hugeness of the experience that he went through. And even at 104, he still has something to give. He still has something to contribute to the community. Right, so let's move on to opportunities. And I think it's important when we think about opportunities. Opportunities are always there, aren't they? Every day we wake up, every meeting we go into, every person we sort of talk with in a professional sense, there's always an opportunity to help them or an opportunity that is missed. And I think that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier. Every time someone comes into A&E, there is an opportunity to change their life, to give them help that they wouldn't otherwise access. Or there's that same opportunity, but it's missed. So, another image here. Well, the first opportunity, I think, is that we have got so many resources in our system, haven't we? So, Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot. Tom, do you, or can you remember what the overall annual budget is for health and social care in Hertfordshire and West Essex?
Overall?
Yeah, overarching, all system budget.
Gosh, it's going to be in the region of about 3 billion.
Yeah. Now, the reason I asked Tom that is because I couldn't remember. That was a really big question. Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I had 5.2 billion in my mind, but I think you're probably more likely to be right than me.
The ICB's overall budget is just over 2.5 billion.
Yeah.
And the county council's revenue budget, whole revenue budget, is about 1 billion.
Yeah. So there you are, 3 billion budget in the whole of the system. Look at all of those resources. Everyone's got them. They're all a bit mixed up, but everyone's got them. And it's not just money, it's buildings, it's systems, it's data, it's skills, it's inspiring people who want to make people's lives better. So what I would reflect on terms of opportunities for the VCFSE sector is, why can't we share those resources around? We can give a little bit of money to a scheme, but why can't we truly become integrated, work together, really solve those wicked problems by, working in the same places, having discussions at the same tables? So the resources are there, but how can we use them better? So another thing that I think our sector can do as an opportunity is to make sense of all the rest. So now I want you to think about it in terms of, how do you find the right supporter at the right time? Well, our system is really, really good at that. And what we do is, if we as an individual organisation can't help, we go on to someone else who can. With this slide, I like to think of this as a really good example of our hospital community and navigation service. And actually, we've got Mark in the room here, and he's a key man leading that service. And what they do is they support people when they're being discharged from hospital, and they get everything sorted. And what they do is they make sure that when someone comes out of hospital, they don't just have the right pills, although they'll do that and collect them from the pharmacy. But what they'll do is they'll make sure that they have a bed that works, and that all the bits and pieces in the house are right. They have food, they have support, they aren't lonely, and so on. Thank you, Nora. So just wanted to give you another example of some people who I have a privilege to work with. This is Rona. Rona is 95. This is her daughter Mary, who is 69. And this is the lovely Jack Russell Sally, who is 13. Now, this family came to HILS back in February 2017. And Rona had just come out of hospital. She had severe osteoporosis. She described what had happened to me, to me afterwards. Her spine had broken in 3 places in the night. She'd been taken into hospital, she'd had a month in hospital, loads of morphine, lost loads and loads of weight, came out of hospital with support, but it was particularly crucial to get her back on her feet because she is a carer for Mary. Mary had polio as a child, and Mary has cerebral palsy. So Rona's part in Mary's life and in keeping that family independent was crucial. We were able to put in nutrition and wellbeing support. We have a dietitian who was able to go in and advise Rona, and by giving her extra nourishing food and lots of lovely snacks that she enjoyed eating, we managed to get her weight back to normal and to increase her independence so that she could manage again. And they are still on our service and they're still doing amazingly now. But that only worked because we saw the opportunity as a whole system to support them. The hospital mended Rona when the tragedy happened. They gave her the support that she needed to be able to leave hospital. Carers came in and helped her with her sort of personal care until she was able to do it herself. We were able to go in and give her that home-based support that kept her independent. Right. So my last section here is on prevention, because I think prevention is the biggest opportunity that all of us have together. So first of all, I'd just like you to think, personally again, what prevention means to you in your roles. Just have a think about the job or your volunteering work, whatever it is you do. What does prevention mean to you? So this is the simple definition of prevention, the action of stopping something from happening or arising. Anyone sort of think about it in that context? Yeah, a few people? Thank you. But actually, something as simple as prevention, gosh, can't we make it complicated? So what we have here is definitions that social care and the health system will think about, and public health when they're thinking about prevention. Primary, secondary, tertiary. And if you're to ask a health worker, a care worker, a pharmacist, a public health officer, everyone would come up with a different part of that in terms of what prevention is. And I feel that that is a great shame, because actually prevention is so simple. It's about all of us recognizing that it's not good enough to just be mending people. Every single one of us, even the consultant who put the pacemaker in my brother the other Friday night, even he has a responsibility towards prevention. And unless we take that seriously together as a whole system, we can't change things. So I'd just like you to look at these and again have a little personal thought. In terms of your prevention journey, do any of those signs really do it for you? Is that where you are at? Do you feel it's all just very foggy ahead? Do you feel you're having conversations that are just going around in circles? Do you feel that it's just all uphill? Every time you try and talk about prevention, it's just, no one knows what's going on. Do you feel that actually, in terms of children, everything that COVID did to them and the problems that we have at the moment, it's almost as if, prevention has just stopped because everything has spiraled so much? Do you feel that actually older people are the real challenge, and how on earth and why is it worth trying to prevent things when we have so many older people in our population? But what I would say is that whatever your role, and whatever you do every day, we can all make a difference. This diagram here is ripples. We are the equivalent of a tiny drop in terms of our great system that we work and sort of live within. But we can have ripples around trying to change people's lives that will make a tremendous difference. We can reach out to people in our communities. We see a neighbour who's struggling. By reaching out to them and making sure that they get the right support and they're connected, the ripples of benefit for our whole system could be huge. We can do that in our own lives. I'm still determined. I'm going to start exercising soon. If I do that, that will be a benefit to my family, myself, and the system. There's something that everyone can do. Thank you, Noah. So, What I would say together then is, there is no escape lane. We are running out of money as a system. And the VCFSE, however much we can help support, we can't change the world. So if there is no escape lane, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to merge our efforts. We're going to have to work together to be able to actually come up with those answers to those wicked problems. And we've got to be full steam ahead and straightforward. Now, last thing I want to show you is a little video of another lady where prevention really, really mattered. You're going to see a film in a moment of Muriel. She is 85 and she had a stroke, and she came onto HILS active ageing service because she'd finished with her statutory physiotherapy, but she was still not back to how she wanted to be. She's a lady who is incredibly independent. She just says, you know, I just want to keep going. That's her phrase, I just want to keep going. But she couldn't do some of the things she loved. She lost the use of one of her hands, couldn't manage to play the piano again, which she totally loves. She'd lost her independence. And this is what happened after 8 weeks of support. Her personal goal was to play the piano again and to be able to walk unaided. Not only did she do that, but she also managed to go outside for a walk with our team member who was helping her during that process. Her life is so different. We've also referred her on for a befriender because she's really interested in needlework and painting, which we know nothing about. And one of our partner organisations is finding her a befriender with those skills. So that's what happens when we work together. That's what happens when we don't just tackle big wicked problems, we tackle the individual problems that people are facing. Thank you, Neil and I. Final thing I wanted to show you is this. Everyone that we deal with has an individual life and an individual passion and skill. This I took from the bottom of a note that came from a client wanting to change their meals for the week. They wrote them all out beautifully at the top, and then they put a picture of themselves at the bottom that they had drawn. In our work together, we're working as a huge system. Let us never forget that it is the individual voice, the individual way that people want to express themselves that matters. And through Healthwatch, through all of our system partners, we can really do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. What an amazing overview and what a brilliant note to end on. We've only got time for literally, I think, 2 questions. So is there anyone who hasn't asked a question yet that would like to, or reflect on anything that Sarah said that's really spoken to them?
I think what would be really helpful, Sarah, is to give us an example of maybe what that recovery would cost to the system, because people are used to not paying for their NHS services. And I know in these parts, HILS is amazing, but people go, oh, how do I get repaired? And it is that elephant in the room. So even if it was just a good example, a bit like with Kirsty's work, it costs the system only X to support that person to live an extra 10 years. That's good evidence to start to talk to GPs and nurses about, because it's like, did you know we all work together collaboratively? That's all it costs.
Absolutely. Well, the amazing thing is that our active ageing service is funded by the Better Care Fund. So this is joint health and social care money that has been prioritised because we've been able to evidence that we can actually prevent falls. And I could give you all of that lady's stats, So Muriel improved in terms of her Berg balance, her clinical frailty score improved from 5 to 3. You know, I can tell you she was stronger. I mean, you can see that she was stronger. But we actually are able to evidence that, and that is why the NHS and social care are able to fund it. So for an 8-week programme for her, the total cost with everything else and all of our staff and the training and everything else will be about £400. That gives her a 1-to-1 hour-long session every week. But then we stay in touch afterwards. Our team members will carry on motivating her to carry on with her activities. £400, what's that? You know, a complex case in hospital for one night.
Really good way to, you know, to visualize it.
Is there anybody else who hasn't asked a question yet that wants to come in? Otherwise, I'll let Kevin back in. Oh, gentleman, that's Kevin.
My name is John Wigley. I'm from the PAF. I am from the St Albans and Hartland and Patients Group. I've got just 2 reflections. First of all, Sarah, thanks for a very inspiring presentation. As my first reflection. The second one might be a little more controversial. I think there are too many organisations involved, actually. I would say that is the wickedest problem of all. There are simply too many independent, quasi-independent organisations involved. It's evidence of incredible devotion and dedication. How nice it would be to simplify the system a little, then we could get away from the issue of communications with the Moffat General not knowing what the county councils doing, for example. So that's my reflection. I should just sit down now and be quiet. Thank you.
I think John makes a really important point, and it is that complexity. Think how many things we could do more easily and more simply if it wasn't as complex. But it is. And actually changing that is beyond us, but working differently within it is not. So I think, you know, if we speak simply to each other, if we are respectful of difference, that's the sort of thing that we can do that is within our gift, that can make our system in Hertfordshire and in West Essex, you know, really, really work better. So.
Thank you so much. Well, there's something for everyone to think about and chat about over lunch. What can we all do differently in a perfect system?